Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to do some extra practice related to Monopoly. So we'll first start with an AP exam style problem, then we'll switch into those multiple choice. Let's get started. Okay, so this is all one great big problem, and there's a bunch of little specific questions that it's got kind of here on the page that we're going to answer using this monster-looking graph that's right here. So the first thing to know about this graph is that these letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, all of them represent points inside the graph. If you're going to talk about a price, it's got to be something on the price axis. If it's a question about the quantity, it's got to be something on the quantity axis. That's a really, really important safety tip when we go to do these questions on an AP test. If they ask us for a price, we don't want to say a letter because that corresponds to a point. We actually want to say a price, right? So just kind of keep that in mind as we do this. Now, it says the graph shows the demand and cost curves of a firm that does not price discriminate. So we know that's why the marginal revenue is separated from the demand or the marginal benefit curve. And we also know that this is a monopoly, or it could be monopolistic competition, but we haven't learned what that is yet. So we could probably just say, yep, this is a monopoly. Now, the first part says identify the profit maximizing output and price, and then deadweight loss. So we know that that's going to be where MR equals MC. And I'm going to look here, MR intercepts MC at point H. And so that's going to be quantity 2 is our output. Because I come down from H, then I'm going to go all the way up to the demand curve because the demand curve tells me the price, right? That tells me the price that people are going to pay is what's on the demand curve. So I'm going to come up from point H here to point B and over, and I find that that price is P5. A lot of temptation that you would have to go directly over from point H, but there is no price there. That's not the price they charge. They charge the price that's listed from the demand curve. The other kind of thing that often happens is students say B for the price. That's not a price. Deadweight loss is going to be the area of a rectangle. We are knowing that we know that deadweight loss occurs when we're not producing where price equals marginal cost or where supply equals demand. And so this marginal cost curve is effectively our supply curve. And we know that that equals demand or cost equals the price here at point G. So this point here would be the socially allocative, efficient, socially optimal, the market competitive outcome. But that's not where they are, right? They're not producing Q4, they're producing Q2. We already established that. So they are going to have deadweight loss, and it's going to kind of come up along the marginal cost curve, and it's going to be along here and all along that demand curve. So it does kind of look like that triangle of deadweight loss. It goes all the way up to that B point as well. So we're going to identify it with the letters B, H, G, because that's the area below the demand curve, above the supply curve, and then the back of that triangle is over to the quantity that we are producing. Remember, it's like an arrowhead kind of telling us, hey, you want to be at the optimal, right? Go towards the optimal, right? Go towards the optimal. And that's that optimal point right there. Now, the next part, suppose the firm produces a revenue maximizing output. Now, revenue maximization is not the same as profit. Revenue maximization is when TR is max, and that's going to happen when MR is equal to 0. Because we know that if we've sold a unit and we have a positive marginal revenue, that's going to add to the total revenue. If we have negative marginal revenue, like we do over here in this range, that's going to reduce total revenue. And so actually, this is kind of a throwback question from Unit 2, but it's very, very common to ask. It's also not uncommon for firms to try to do this, right? A firm would revenue maximize because they want to expand their market share. Yeah, sure, they're going to end up kind of maybe not making as much profit, but maybe they want to grow the company first. So we think about TR max occurs where MR equals 0. That is here at Q3. So that's where MR crosses. How do I know what the price is? Well, I go all the way up to the demand curve, up here to point D and over, and that corresponds to P3. It says, at this level, is the firm earning profit? Explain. Well, to know profit, we have to compare price and average cost. Well, if we're quantity at Q3, it's actually exactly where the ATC is. Look at that. Isn't that kind of a weird coincidence? That's how this question got designed. So ATC equals the price at point D. So we would say, no, they earn economic profit equals 0 because price equals ATC at quantity 3. And so that's enough to say there is no positive economic profit to be made at Q3. They're breaking even. Suppose the government regulates the firm's price to achieve allocative efficiency, right? Allocative efficiency, supply equals demand, or price equals marginal cost. Identify the output and the price the government would set. Well, we already kind of picked that point. We already knew was here, this point G, and that's going to correspond to P1 and Q4. So we're going to say Q4 P1. And again, how did I know that? Well, that's where supply and demand, price equals marginal cost, and that's the quantity and then the price that corresponds to that. Now, suppose the firm produces at the allocated socially efficient level. So let's say they actually do that, right? They do that. And so we would say, identify the area of consumer surplus. So above P1, right? Consumer surplus above the price that consumers pay. And so above that price, from point G over to P1, and it's going to be all the way up the demand curve. So we have a huge amount of consumer surplus if this firm is regulated, right? It's going to go here all the way down to P sub 1, and then it's going to come all the way over here. So there is no more deadweight loss. So we would identify that as P7, P1, and then G is the corner of that. P7, P1, and G. That's the area of our consumer surplus. Are they earning a profit or a loss at that level? Well, here, if we're at P sub 1, where's ATC? ATC is way up here at point E. So this company is losing money, right? How do I know that? Well, price is less than ATC. So I'm going to say loss because price is less than ATC at, what is that quantity, Q4. Right? So I just kind of compare the ATC and the price. I know they're losing money. Identify the area of that profit or loss. Well, if they're losing money from G up to E, and then it's going to go all the way over, it's a rectangle to P2, P1. So it's a little bit tough to visualize, but it's a loss rectangle that's right here, down and over, and then it's going to come up just to that P2. So it's this kind of long, skinny rectangle right there. So that's E, G, P2, P1, E, G, P2, P1. And now part E, suppose the government establishes a price that allows the firm to cover all its opportunity costs. What does that mean? What's that, huh? That means that they're earning zero economic profit, right? Zero profit. Zero economic profit, I should say, zero economic profit. And we know that that's going to occur where price equals ATC. But what's fun is we actually already knew that, right? Here, price equals the ATC at quantity 3. We actually just talked about that if they produce their revenue maximizing. So the price they would set, if we want to come back up and look at it, where does ATC equal the price? Here at point D, and that corresponds to point price 3. So we're going to say price 3, and it's not asking for a quantity here, so I'm just going to say P3, and suppose the firm engages, the last part, suppose instead the firm engages in perfect price discrimination, what quantity would we produce? So remember, price discrimination means that instead of having a separated marginal revenue curve, demand is equal to marginal revenue, right? And everything else, though, is still the same. So we got marginal cost, and then it gives us an ATC curve that I don't really need. So we know we're going to produce MR equals MC if we do that, right? That's what's cool about price discrimination, cool from the perspective of social welfare, is that we will produce where marginal cost equals demand. That occurs at point G or Q4, and that is the socially optimal level of output, as we already actually established. So we're going to say Q4, and that would actually eliminate the deadweight loss. So let's take a look at some of these multiple choice questions on the back. I'm going to zoom in just a shade here as my eyes is getting old. Let's see here. Number 1, profit maximizing firm should do what? Well, we see here the ATC is way up here, so this company is clearly losing money. Exit if the conditions do not improve. Well, that's the answer right there. They should leave because they're earning a loss, right? P is less than ATC, so they're losing money. And in fact, we can even put that right there. That's that loss rectangle right there. Womp, womp, womp. Sad trombone. Next, number 2. Which of the following statements about the firm whose cost and revenue curves are shown above is correct? Profit maximizing price is 5. Well, MR equals MC here. That occurs at 20, so that's not right. B, its profit maximizing output is 200. That is true because that's where MR equals MC. Boom, B is the right answer. The other answers are wrong. 3, a monopolist is inefficient because, well, as we talked about in one of these lectures, I know at least one of them we did, probably all of them, they underproduce, right? They don't produce enough to be socially optimal. And as a result of underproducing, they also overcharge. So they don't overproduce, that one's not right. It underproduces and charges a price above the marginal cost. B is our right answer here. That's why they're allocative inefficient, right? So we can actually say is allocative inefficient for that reason. Number 4, a monopolist demand curve is necessarily the same as the market demand curve. That's the true statement in the list. A, they have to be because the monopoly is the whole market. Let's take a look at number 5. A single price monopolist marginal revenue is, well, when they say single price, that means you've got a demand curve that tells you the price, and you got a marginal revenue that comes down faster and faster than that. It's not equal to the price. It is less than the price, right? Because the demand curve tells us the price that people are willing to pay. So we would say B, less than the price. Number 6, which of the following is a source of monopoly power? It's really just the fact that there are high barriers to entry, right? There are other companies can't jump into this market and steal away their market share. If they could, they would, and that's why these monopolies are often earning profit for a long period of time. Number 7, assume a profit maximizing monopoly is charging a single price. Okay, so it's the kind of normal kind. Monopoly can price discriminate, charge each customer what's willing and able to pay. We know that they would increase the amount of output that they would produce, right? Because we would say instead of producing here, they wouldn't do that. That MR curve is going to get shifted over to the demand curve. And so they're actually going to produce here. They're going to produce at that larger quantity and eliminate all that deadweight loss. So let's see. The quantity of output produced will increase. Boom. That's the right answer, A. Number 8, a monopoly is different from a perfectly competitive firm in that a monopoly, A, does not have a U-shaped ATC. That's not always true. They do with an artificial, right? That's why that one's not right. An artificial monopoly has that. B has an average fixed cost curve that's perfect. That's weird. No. C has a marginal revenue curve below its demand curve. That's the weirdness, right? You have the kind of separated MR. So C is the right answer. Number 9, if a firm produces 10 outputs, its economic profit equals how much? So at 10, the height here, 20 minus 10 is $10 times 10 is 100. So the area of profit is this rectangle right here. Boom, boom, boom. And then last but not least, number 10, from a point of view of economic efficiency, a monopolist produces too little of a good and they charge too high of a price. And so that's going to be answer D. Hopefully this helped you understanding monopoly a little bit better. I'll see you next time.